Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Western Herald Headlined. I'm Aidan Ralko, the multimedia editor for Western Herald, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Annabella Tetner, the lead news reporter.
And I'm Joseph Hartzell, the lead sports reporter.
There we go. Some writer people finally back on the podcast. We've had a long run of some multimedia people, and so it's going to be nice to finally get back to talking about some news that we've covered and stuff like that. But to start, how have you guys been? How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Aidan?
I'm doing good. Joey?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready for the Frozen Four in a week.
There we go. We'll touch on that later. But to start, we have a cool story about the Trash Club. Bella, would you like to get us started on that?
Yeah, so Trash Club is kind of like what it sounds like. They meet every Sunday from 2 to 4, and they go around cleaning up the trash on the streets of Kalamazoo, but also like Western Michigan's main campus. Yeah, so if anyone's interested in making the community a little bit cleaner, that's a really cool club.
Yes, yeah. We made a video story as well a couple weeks ago, earlier in the spring semester, but a written story just came out. And being around them, I got to make the video, so being around them and kind of watching them do what they do, it was like, I know picking up trash is sort of a boring activity, so to speak, but it was fun, and it was cool to hang out with them and meet them. Their goal, they told me, was to make Kalamazoo the cleanest city on the planet.
Oh,
so that's a good
that
goal,
would be cool.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But you can read more about that story at westernherald.com. And then we have a new video story out now on our website and YouTube. The Climate Change Working Group strives for change. It's about the Climate Change Working Group here on campus, sort of a interdisciplinary group. It's got faculty, students, community members, so a broad mix of people involved. And they're all working towards the same mission of advocating to adapt and mitigate climate change. So that was put together by a couple of our staff reporters, Maddie Sneller, Amelia Wood, and Jacob Marr. They did a great job, put a lot of work into that. They went to, there was a rally over in Detroit, and Amelia went to that to get footage and stuff. So that's quite the journey for some footage, but that it made the video even like more visually dynamic. So I think that's pretty sweet that she did that. And then one thing that I really liked that they did was they wanted to put the interviews in the greenhouse on campus.
That is really cool.
So I think that's a nice touch, especially when you're talking about climate change. But if you're interested to learn more about that group and watch that video, you can find that at westernherald.com or on our YouTube as well. And then Joey, you mentioned the hockey team and the Frozen Four. What's going on with that?
Yeah, Western first Frozen Four in program history.
Huge.
Won the Fargo Regional. Not in a particularly easy fashion. Went to double overtime with Minnesota State on night one, and then night two against UMass. It took 2 goals in the same 5-minute major power play to move past them. But the Western will take on a familiar foe in conference rival Denver. We've played them 3 times this year already. We're 2-1 against them. Split a home series with them earlier in the year, and then beat them in a 2-overtime thriller in St. Paul earlier this year in the conference tournament to clinch that, which was a fantastic game, won by an Alex Bump goal. And we'll probably need a lot of that if Western's looking to win that game. He struggled a little bit in the Fargo Regional. He didn't have a point, which has been rare for him. Over a point per game on the season. So it'll be a tall task for Bump to really. He needs to get going for Western to have a good shot at winning this national championship. But as of right now, they probably are the favorites.
You're saying they are the favorites against Denver? Okay.
In fact, I would go as far to say as they're the favorites to win the national championship at this point.
Oh.
They are the only 1 seed left. Michigan State and Maine both lost in the first round. And then Boston College lost to Denver in the regional final in order to advance to the Frozen Four. So we're getting Denver, and then the winner of our game will play the winner of Boston and Penn State. Penn State's kind of on a magical run right now as a 4 seed. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
But the matchups early bode well for Western, I would say.
Wow, that's good to know. Kind of one of the most popular sports here at Western, I would say,
Yeah.
for the student body. I know people love going to the hockey games, so it's cool to see them succeed.
Yeah, and you kind of see that in some media recognition now. Western this week received their first #1 ranking in program history in
Wow.
the media poll. With all the teams in front of them losing early, good opportunity for Western to bump up, and they got the little one next to their name. And College Hockey News also named Pat Ferschweiler as National Coach of the Year.
Wow.
So
Wow.
big honor for Pat Ferschweiler.
Yeah.
He has gotten. I have seen some stuff on social media about him floated out about being a potential NHL name, but as a program legend, played at Western back in the 90s. He's done a fantastic job turning around the program very quickly. He might be here for a long time, and that would bode very well for Western hockey.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's exciting stuff. When is the next game again?
Yeah, the Frozen Four. The first game will be 5 p.m. on Thursday.
Okay.
Next Thursday. The date is, I believe, the 11th. So
Okay.
it'll be on ESPN2 or ESPN. I'm not sure which one, but
Okay.
one of those two channels. 5 p.m. and Western Michigan's playing Denver in that first game.
Exciting stuff. That's awesome. But I like to use this podcast to give sort of a more personable kind of behind the scenes look, if you will, at some of the stuff going on at Western Herald. And so you both are new members of the editorial board. This is your first kind of academic year on the editorial board. I wanted to kind of ask you guys a little bit about that. For starters, what has that experience been like for you thus far?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Well, it's been unique for me in the sense that I've never really held a job that is like a professional, more administrative position. Like most college students, I've held several jobs, but they were all manual labor, hourly, clock in, do physical labor jobs. So being a part of like an organization where you have a lot more responsibility, I think, and a lot more kind of freedom, but with the freedom comes the responsibility of you're responsible for getting your work done and kind of creating the work for yourself and the people underneath you a little bit. Now that I am on the editorial board, I'm kind of not really, I don't want to say above the staff writers. I feel like that's a bad way to put it, but more of like responsible for like helping them get good content out and learn how to write good content, things like that, making sure that Jack has everything he needs. Jack Minick, our sports editor, for print editions and just getting stuff up on the website. So it's been unique to me to really be in that kind of administrative responsibility role.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like what Joey said, it's different than like clocking in and out for a job. It's also really taught me like time management skills since like you do have a more like flexible schedule, like making sure you like get all the interviews done, the stories written, edited, all that in time for like a timely publishing. But also it's just been really cool to be in like a leadership position and help other staff reporters really succeed in their endeavors. So that's something that I really appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another question I wanted to ask you guys about that is, how do you feel you've kind of grown or changed from kind of being in a staff writer position to moving into more of a leadership role?
Yeah, I'm going to bounce off Bell a little bit there. I think my time management, on a large scale has gotten, a lot better. And a large part of that is from this job, but that applies to, a lot of things outside of this job, other jobs that I currently hold, schoolwork, things like that. And then also, more in the journalism world, writing on a deadline. I was not really responsible as a staff writer for, those quick turnaround like hockey games. Print comes out on Monday. We have to have stuff in by Sunday to send into the printers. And, well, hockey plays Friday and Saturday nights every week. So that meant that I would end up at a lot of games, and I would be in the press conference room until 10:30, 11 sometimes, talking to players, talking to coaches, talking to whoever's down there. And that meant, some late nights, getting stuff around very quickly, getting stories done, in 30, 45 minutes. It was very new to me in a way that I hadn't really done that before. I was more used to sitting down and having a longer process of getting a story done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like my first year on the editorial board, but also like my first year with the Herald. I'm a journalism student, so like I've had experience writing stuff, but coming to the Herald and having things edited by my peers has really made my writing like so much stronger. I feel way more confident like sitting down, listening to interviews and like being able to bat it out. Like what would take me like 2 to 3 hours now it takes me like 30 minutes to an hour, which is really nice.
That's awesome. And then I thought of this. I wanted to ask you guys, what has been your favorite part, either something you made or experience-wise, that's come through kind of being more in a leadership role?
Personally, for me, I just worked on this one story with the Leadership and Business Strategy program. It hasn't come out yet, but it will, so keep an eye out. But it was really cool. I got to go talk to the students who like are in like leadership positions. In that program, I went downtown to like their office, like their experiential learning.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to just like be able to connect with like students off campus in a really kind of like professional way. I got to meet the chief information officer for San Antonio, which is kind of cool. I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's been one of my favorite things I've worked on. And also just like collaborating with other like members of the Herald has been really fun. Like Athena and I worked on a video for the International Bazaar, and working with Ella, the lead A&E reporter doing the Tuesday Noon News Breaks has also been really fun. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Joey.
My favorite experience was, go back to hockey a little bit. I'm a sports guy, as a lot of you can probably tell. It was when Western clinched the regular season conference championship. It was the first one in program history, and being there with the press pass, I got to go behind the scenes. I got to go down on the ice during the celebration. I got to go into the locker room after. Just kind of being a part of that and kind of getting to see like the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't get to see is a really cool thing for me. And that was probably the one specific moment I could pick out. But I mean, getting the opportunity to go to football games, stand on the sideline, do things like that is just, it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then lastly, I wanted to ask you guys, what advice would you give to someone who is interested in a leadership role but kind of has some hesitations or anxieties about that, whether it's Western Herald or any leadership role in general?
I would say that if you're interested in it, definitely go for it, because people are willing to like bear with you while you're learning. Like they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, that person's a horrible leader. They're going to be like, oh, they're new to this, they're learning. And a lot of people will give you grace and like understand. That's what I've experienced with the Herald, at least. And it's totally been worth it. I was so scared when I first applied, but it's really awesome. So definitely go for it.
I would say probably organization. I would say that as someone who struggles with organization a little bit. It's easier to get organized early and then stay organized than it is to not be organized early and then try and organize. And I'm, in the midst of trying to get organized after starting unorganized. And so I would just say staying organized, getting organized early, keeping your things in order. It's just, that really helps with the time management thing, because you don't waste a bunch of time looking for papers or notes or recordings or files that I have, on laptops and flash drives and who knows where. So it's just stay organized, I would say, is the biggest thing. I think that would be a big key for me, but
Awesome.
I think that would make your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. I think that's great advice. Thank you, guys. And also, I think that'll do it for this episode of Western Herald Headlined. As a reminder, you can find all the stories we've talked about and a lot more at westernherald.com, so make sure you go check it out. And you can stay up to date with everything we do by following us at Western Herald pretty much on every social media you come across. So once again, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.